Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Game News Roundup. Today, Kind of Funny XCast podcast released an interview with Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer, and he spoke quite candidly and what seemed fairly honest throughout the interview with some of the struggles of late at Xbox. The first thing he spoke about was Redfall, which, if you don't know, has not done well. Is currently sitting at a 59 Metascore on Metacritic, and is fairly similar score over on OpenCritic as well. Has not been received well at all. So we'll get into my thoughts momentarily, but Phil Spencer's direct quote: "There's nothing more difficult for me than disappointing the Xbox community," referring to Redfall. "To watch the community lose confidence and be disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm upset with myself. The critical response was not what we wanted. Kind of pick myself up. What can we learn? What can we get better? How can we get better? Clearly, quality and execution, things we can do. But one thing I won't do is push against creative aspirations of our team." So basically, he's saying he will leave the teams, the studios under Xbox, to develop games that they want to develop. But he still wants to make things better. How can they do? Maybe assist in development more so than they have in the past. Phil Spencer continued, "I'm a huge supporter of Arcane Awesome, the specific studio that worked on Redfall. Their track record is awesome. Dishonored, I believe, Prey as well. The reboot Prey, the second Prey, but the not Prey of the three. It's confusing, the names. But anyways, I love a lot of the great games they've built. This one, where the team didn't hit their own internal goals when it launched, I think it's maybe a little simplistic to just say, hey, maybe if you just delayed it 3 months, the core creative would have delivered on something different than what it was." And Arcane Awesome, they are working on feedback as well as a 60 frames per second mode, as the game, at least on Xbox Series X and S, only launched with a 30 FPS mode. And Spencer did say there's a good timeline to get the 60 FPS mode out, hopefully soon. The game does need a lot of work to become good. And yeah, and the developer will continue to work on the game. So we're going to continue to work on the game, said Spencer. "We've shown a commitment to games like Sea of Thieves and Grounded." Yes, Sea of Thieves, which, though the core game of Sea of Thieves, when I recall, was generally good. It was just a lack of content was the main issue, and a lack of things to do in Sea of Thieves. And Grounded, which released in early access, to continue to go and build games. "But I also know these games are $70, and I'm going to take full responsibility for launching a game that needs to be great." Yeah, and Redfall is available on the Series X and S, PC, as well as Xbox Game Pass. And yeah, Redfall being the first, here's the thing, it is the first game from first-party Xbox to be $70. I feel like, there'd still be hate, there'd still be a lot of negativity, but if the game launched at, say, $40 or $50, it wouldn't be quite as bad, versus it being the first Xbox game being $70 at launch, and it being, well, a 59 on Metacritic as of right now, which is not good. They need to do better, for sure. It sounds like the fundamentals of the game, kind of the issue. They couldn't do much to make it better. If they gave it a few extra months, sure, maybe the game would have been a bit better, a little less buggy. Maybe they'll have a 60 FPS mode, if it came out, say, for Halloween. But fundamentals for the game, there were just issues, to say the least. And Phil Spencer being quite honest that, yeah, it's not what they wanted. And they probably should have done better, maybe not charge $70 for it at launch, even if it is available on Game Pass, versus, say, Starfield or Forza Motorsport, which will also be $70 when they launch later this year. Also, Phil Spencer admits Xbox didn't deliver on its 2022 showcase promises of showcasing games that were supposed to launch over the next 12 months, so it would have been through, I guess you could say, June of this year. Obviously, Forza Motorsport and Starfield have missed that release window, and Redfall probably should have missed that release window as well, and had more time to cook in the oven, so to speak. So yeah, Paris Lilly mentioning to Phil Spencer last year during the showcase, you had the 12-month plan. "You didn't necessarily deliver on all the games." "No, we didn't deliver," said Spencer. There's no necessarily. We didn't deliver. Lilly did provide a list of games that were announced years ago that we don't know much about and have not seen in a long time. Avowed, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, Save Decay 3, and Contraband. There's also a bunch of other games that have been announced for Xbox we have not seen or heard from in a while. So yeah, Spencer, in response to that, I'm not going to try to oversell Showcase here, the Showcase coming up next month, because if I was on the other side watching this, it's like, hey, after Redfall, I'm going to put my hands on the controller, and that's what it's going to take to prove it to me. So yeah, Spencer, while he doesn't want to oversell the Showcase, which again will be live streamed on June 11th, he is enthusiastic about it. No, doesn't want to overhype it like he has in the past. That's not what Showcase is, so I'm very enthusiastic about Showcase for this year. We're going to announce some things that people haven't seen, some new games, and we're going to give updates to some of the things that were on your list. So he specifically stated Avowed, Perfect Dark, Everwild, Fable, Save Decay 3, and Contraband. We'll probably see Avowed out of those most likely. Maybe Perfect Dark, and maybe if Rare's figured out what they want Everwild to be, potentially we'll see that as well. Also, Hellblade 2, which wasn't mentioned, is most likely to be shown. I feel like if any game, first-party game, but outside of Starfield or Forza Motorsport, which come out this year, I feel like Hellblade will be the next first-party release from Xbox. So yeah, Spencer added, the other thing that gets me really excited is when I look forward over the next quarters, which has always been my focus. How do we get a big game out every quarter at quality? Yeah, they had Hi-Fi Rush Q1, which was of high quality. I mean, it wasn't a huge AAA release, but it was very high quality. That things are lining up finally after some of the slowdown through COVID. So if he's thinking about a AAA or a big release every single quarter, that means 4 big releases a year. So potentially, I guess Starfield would technically be Q3 being September, then maybe I guess Forza Motorsport Q4, and then maybe early next year we'll have Hellblade, middle of next year Avowed, and then from there on we'll see what's up if they can keep up, 4 big releases every single year with their 23 first-party studios that they have now. Mind you, some of those studios are on the smaller side, but they are growing. Spencer added, I'm tired of talking about that, but I can now see that we've got games coming every quarter that I think will surprise and delight our customers. So yeah, there are games in development that have not announced yet. We still have to deliver on the creative, and we still have to deliver on the technical. Not every game we ship is for everybody, we know that. I'm not trying to build that one game to rule them all! I was say somewhere I actually have a fake The One Ring, but anyways. We will have different creative takes, and we have a very diverse portfolio when you think about the stuff that Microsoft Game Studios builds, but I like that. I think that we're trying to do as Xbox, which isn't to mimic any of the other platforms out there. Create our own brand and identify the diversity of what we build. Hopefully, will end up being a strength, but we have to do it at quality. We have to do it on time, and we have to show people what we're actually going to see. What they're going to see, excuse me. We have to show gameplay, and I think I'm kind of beyond that. We have to put great games in the hands of our players. There's nothing else, and hopefully Starfield. The hype around Starfield is big. I mean, Bethesda games are always are big releases, at least have been since... I mean, Oblivion was a big release, and then Skyrim was obviously a big release, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. So going on about the whole, 12-month thing, well, I like the concept of focusing on games over the next 12 months. I think they should broaden it to, say, the next 18 months, the games that are likely to launch over the next 18 months, as that is the main focus, but also showcase games that are further down the line as well, a nice variety. So the main focus of games that are coming out, obviously, later this year, and games coming out all throughout next year, even throughout next holiday, holiday 2024, and maybe showing some little sneak peeks of games coming out maybe 2025, 2026 type of thing. A nice variety of games versus just focusing on games over the next 12 months. Well, what's after that? What about those games you've announced? Give us little teases at least to show that, yes, it's still in development, they're still alive. Fable. Been waiting on Fable for how long? It's been how long since the last Fable game? Long time. Fable 3, that is. I'm not referring to the other Fable game that was in development after that, which was, I believe, ultimately canned. And the other thing Spencer had mentioned was how they need to create their own brand and identity, and not mimic the other studios. So they're not going to make a Mario clone, Zelda clone, Pokemon clone, I guess, God of War, Horizon, Zero Dawn Forbidden West, not like Forza Horizon, Gran Turismo, although I guess we think Gran Turismo and you got Forza Motorsport, they're both simulation racing games. And obviously there's also Forza Horizon, the open world racing game, which is a bit more arcadey. So they want to create their own brand of games, and they seem to have a big focus on, they say are Western RPGs, Starfield, Elder Scrolls, Fable, Avowed, several Western RPGs. And obviously, eventually, I'm sure Fallout 5 at some point in the future. That's going to be down the road. Unless Bethesda expands or lets another developer take over. Unlikely. Maybe we'll see Obsidian work on, say, a Fallout New Vegas 2 or another Fallout whatever. New York. I don't know. New London. I don't know. You know what I mean? Something like that. And one more big thing we got over here. Phil Spencer. Headline here, we lost the worst generation to lose in. The Xbox One generation. So, yeah, Microsoft, again, it is in its 4th generation of Xbox, and only once has Xbox sold nearly as well as PlayStation. This was when the 360 nearly as sold as well as the PS3. Basically ended up within a couple million units of each other lifetime. And then the last generation, the Xbox Ones struggled to sell a bit over 50 million units, which is not like it's terrible. The Wii U was at, 13 some odd million. Even the original Xbox was around 24 million. And then, yeah, Xbox One compared to the 117 million for the PS4. So a direct quote from Phil Spencer. We're not in the business of out-consoling Sony or out-consoling Nintendo. There isn't really a great solution or win for us. And I know that will upset a ton of people. But it's just the truth of the matter is that when you're in 3rd place in the console marketplace, and the top 2 players are as strong as they are, obviously referring to PlayStation and Nintendo, and have, in certain cases, a very discrete focus on doing deals and other things that kind of make being Xbox hard for us as a team. That's on us, not on anybody else. Obviously, discrete focus and doing deals, you could probably hinting at like Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy 7 remakes, or Forspoken, or other basically Square Enix games on the PS5. And Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake as well, and I'm sure there's several other games. But all three, Microsoft also money hats third-party games to be exclusive on Xbox. Everyone does it. It's been a thing in gaming for a long time. So yeah, Phil Spencer continued, our vision is that everybody who's on console has to feel like they have a great experience and they're a first-class citizen. They've invested a ton in our platform. I see the commentary that if you just build great games, everything will turn around. It's just not true that if we go off and build great games, all of a sudden, you're going to see a console share shift in some, keyword is dramatic way. Although, having big, great games will help sell consoles for sure. You need the big games to help sell consoles, but gaming is not the only reason to shift consoles. Obviously, is the main reason, but not the only one. If you look at being able to shift things around with great games and from generation to generation, you can look at the GameCube to the Wii, or say the Wii U to the Switch, although it wasn't just the great games. The Wii had motion controls, and the Switch combined Nintendo's home consoles and handhelds into one single platform. So you had Pokemon, Zelda, Mario, all the big Nintendo games, all on one single platform. I feel like Pokemon by itself, a mainline Pokemon game, it's going to sell 20 million consoles of a Nintendo console by itself with the mainline Nintendo games. So yeah, Phil Spencer added, we lost the worst generation to lose in the Xbox One generation, where everybody built their digital library of games, and now we've got backwards compatibility as kind of a standard thing. At least with Xbox and PlayStation. PS5 running all PS4 games, Series X running all Xbox One games, and several 360 and original Xbox games as well. When you go and you're building on Xbox, we want our Xbox community to feel awesome, but this idea that if we just focus more on great games on our console, that somehow we're going to win the console race doesn't really lay into the reality of most people. I do agree that great games does not mean all of a sudden Xbox is going to outsell PlayStation and be number one. Or outsell Nintendo, be number one, It will help close the gap, per se. But looking at Microsoft's lineup, I do see the Series X still selling better than the Xbox One, just for the fact of the stronger first-party lineup. But I still see Xbox definitely is going to continue to lag behind PlayStation. Sure, things could turn around from one generation to the other, but it's going to take time for anything for that to happen. Obviously, Microsoft has also expanded outside of Xbox, so you don't have to have an Xbox to play your Xbox games. You could have a good enough computer to play all your Xbox games, so some people who play on PlayStation get a good enough computer to play your Xbox games, per se. So yeah, like 90% of the people every year who walk into a retailer, this is what Spencer also added, to buy a console are already a member of one of the three ecosystems, PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo, and the digital library is already there. This is the first generation where the big games that they're playing were games that were available last gen when you think of about Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft, Call of Duty Warzone as well, Apex Legends, etc. All those Battle Royale games have been going around for a while. The continuity from generation to generation is so strong. I see a lot of pundits out there that want to go back to the time where we all had cartridges and disc, and every new generation was a clean slate. So yeah, I guess the thing is you go from one generation to the next generation. Now, you already have your previous generation games that transfer over to you to the next gen, as well as all the digital games you've already bought and own. So yeah, and you could switch the whole console share. That's just not the world that we are in today, referring to how it's a clean slate every generation. It used to be, but now that's no longer the thing. There is no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10, and people start selling their PS5s. That's not going to happen. Well, the main thing would be if Starfield is an 11 out of 10, it's going to get people to buy a Series S or Series X who already own a PS5. They're not going to sell their PS5 or their Switch. They're going to buy an Xbox for the Xbox exclusive. So I see going forward more people owning, as long as, you know, they keep hitting, as long as Starfield's a big hit and all the other future Xbox games are big hits as well, that people who own a PlayStation or a Switch end up buying a Series S or a Series X down the road, or get enough computer, or they have good enough internet for Xbox cloud gaming potentially in the future. Although, internet speeds are still a long ways away from most people to be able to run cloud gaming smoothly. So I see this being the generation where I see more and more people owning multiple consoles. Instead of just focusing on one console, sure, they might have their main console, but they'll have other consoles to play with other exclusives as well. So yeah, Phil Spencer continued, we have this unique vision because we see what creators want to do. Creators want to build games that can meet players on any screen. People play with their friends regardless of what other screen they are on. The console is the core of the Xbox brand, there's no doubt. We will stay focused on making sure that console experience is awesome. I know some people want to hold this up for just being a better green version of what the blue guys do. I'm just going to say there's not a win for Xbox in staying in the wake of somebody else. We have to go off and do our own thing with Game Pass, with the stuff we do with xCloud, and the way we build our games. They want to differentiate themselves instead of just trying to do what PlayStation was doing for so many years. Look at the 360. Well, yeah, it almost sell as well as the PS3. It mainly came down to Sony messing up so bad when the PS3 first came out. And a lot of people came to the 360. 360 was cheaper by a couple $100 at launch when the PS3 came out. And then a lot of people swapped to Xbox. But then Xbox messed up with the Xbox One early on, and then people swapped to PlayStation. And now Phil Spencer is saying that losing the Xbox One generation was probably the worst generation to lose again because of the digital ecosystem. And now people are sticking to one system for all their digital library that they own, versus going to another console for each generation because it's a clean slate, which is no longer the case, which I do agree with. But also, exclusives are very important to sell consoles, without a doubt. Starfield has the potential to move several million Xbox consoles over the next couple years if it's a big enough hit. It's potential. We'll see. I mean, Xbox hasn't had a big release since Halo Infinite and Forza Horizon 5, I think? I want to say it's 5, in November and December of 2021. We saw the lack of any big first-party exclusives or even third-party exclusives last holiday with Xbox sales being down year over year. And so far, Q1 of 2023, Xbox Series X and S sales are down about 25% or so year over year. I do see sales being up year over year with Starfield coming out this holiday, and Microsoft does also need to keep releasing good deals. And I think Series S price cut to $250 does need to be permanent. Series X stock needs to improve. It has been fairly abysmal. I mean, it's not that there's no Series X stock, but relatively speaking, it's not good at all. They need to make improvements. Maybe they'll treat Starfield as kind of a relaunch of the Series X and S potentially. Maybe we'll see a slim model. I mean, not that the Series S needs to be smaller, but like a slightly smaller Series X, getting more stock out there. Maybe a redesign of the Series X. Kind of like 360 was selling well, but then Kinect launched also with the Xbox 360S, the Slim or whatever it was called. The slightly smaller 360, the redesign. And that helped boost sales for the 360 for a good couple years there. But we'll see what Microsoft ends up doing with the Xbox. In some ways, I agree with what Phil Spencer says. In other ways, I don't agree, because exclusives sells consoles. You need exclusives to sell consoles for sure. And Starfield is probably the most important exclusive Xbox has had since, what? Halo, the original Halo, maybe, on the original Xbox, or Halo 3. Maybe Gears of War on the 360, you know? But I digress. That is going to about do it. If you have anything you want to add to what Phil Spencer has said, if anything you want to mention, let me know in the comments section down below. I'm keeping an eye on that. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. And if I don't do any more videos, until next week, hope you all have a great weekend. Take care, everybody.